Okay, I would like to ask you, Tina, about
Mhm.
focus groups. How do you start a program? What kind of focus groups do you do to, before an event, and what do you do after events?
Oh, that's a great question. I think what's really important for a focus group, well, a focus group, it can be a very flexible sort of situation because you have a lot of consumers who are involved in this. It's not just, the kids with autism, but it's their family. I mean, they're really a unit and operate together. But on the other side of it, you've got, the venue, the museum, the zoo, and they're trying to achieve whatever they said their mission was, and they have some stated goals that they're trying to meet with these events. And then for myself as an occupational therapist, like my goal right now is to educate my students in a service learning capacity. But other therapists who aren't professors can certainly do this, and they might even have the goal of observing or being a part of the situation, so they would be more grounded in their therapy time with the realities that kids are facing when they get out there. Like the therapist, instead of just kind of dreaming about what they think they're going to be, the child is doing out there, well, why not go and be part of the experience, and then figure out from a treatment planning standpoint, they could go back to their drawing boards and think, what could I do back here that would help these children have a more successful experience? And so I, I enjoy doing focus groups because I think sometimes people can stimulate each other's ideas, and you'll get one person that'll start to say something, and another person will say, "Oh, that reminds me of blah blah blah," and they'll add to it. What I have usually done is talk to parents, but now with Zoom, I think it's easier to talk to a wider variety of people. For my own research, I've been interviewing people on the autism spectrum. And so that's like got a whole nother set of parameters involved with, putting them at ease and making sure that they understand what privacy is and what they should and shouldn't say, et cetera. But I think that for you as museum people, you need to look at the stakeholders in your museum too. And so that would be a good group. So the way I would run a focus group is to create about 8 questions, no more than that. I would let people know what the questions were before we started, because if you don't, people tend to try to answer everything at question 1. They just pile all the information in and they don't realize you're going to ask them about that. I usually give it to them in writing, and so they can look at it and say, oh, we're going to get to that later. And then you can make the group as structured or unstructured as you want, but if you if you have kind of a sense of what your group is like, you may know how much uh, external control to put on the group. Sometimes I'll say, let's all answer this one, or let's everybody have a try. Or what is more typical for me is to say, you certainly have the right to pass on any question you want. And and the danger in that is it might be like an interview with one person, everybody else is watching you. But I think they get better as you do more of them. And if you can record them, it's really helpful. And I always learn something from them. I try to put aside my own beliefs before we start, because I have a lot of beliefs and I've had a lot of experiences. I just try to step out of that. And so that's what my focus groups look like. And again, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I do think that Zoom is making it more and more possible for us to have focus groups that are convenient for everybody. But I also, when I'm done with the focus group, I try to um, maybe say to reward people for having participated, and that's usually by giving them some kind of information or new ideas that they didn't have, and so then they feel like they really benefited too, and it wasn't just them doing something for me. So that's my feeling about a focus group. But what about you guys? I mean, you have a different group of people than I do.
When we conducted our pre-launch focus group, we kind of wanted to get a baseline. What kinds of things are we already offering, and to get feedback from them about
Hmm.
what things would make their visit more welcoming, more comfortable. And they gave such helpful feedback. And like you said, we had a very short question survey. I think it was just 6 questions. And we also wanted to solicit the student themselves, not just the parents, but so we had professionals there, OT professionals, as well as students and parents, you know, going along with this experience and checking out the area. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, but also after it was done, we had an official audit done of our space. How about you, Emily? What did you do?
I think kind of in the same vein as Tina, we really try to put any preconceptions aside when we're having focus groups. We really love to start with a focus group before starting any kind of programming.
Mm-hmm.
We try to not even get to the stage of thinking about what we want to do. We try to really start with families and, you know, potential constituents and ask them, you know, what would you like to do? What do you need? How can we, you know, be a better neighbor to you? And then our planning goes from there. We've also found that it's really important to continue focus groups after the launch of our program. So, you know, even after it starts and things seem to be going well, we really want to continue to get better and to get the feedback of our participants and from people who aren't coming to our programs and find out why. Some of our most committed stakeholders have been our families and participants of our autism programs. So we love to involve them and get their feedback. For example, we have one young man who started coming to the museum when he was 5 years old and has, you know, been to every single one of our autism programs and summer camps. And now he volunteers at all of our programs and provides feedback for our activities and helps to really shape them. We also, kind of a simple way to get feedback at our events is that we give people a little sticker survey on the way out. So, you know, each kid will get a little dot sticker, and we'll have a big poster board that says, you know, what was your favorite activity? And I'll have a picture of each activity, and they can just, you know, put their sticker on that activity as they leave. So, you know, a good evaluation tool for even the little kiddos.
I think it's so important, that co-creation that you're talking about, Emily, and obviously we're developing programs, but we want to do it with them to make sure that it's something that they'll enjoy and want to come back and do again. Tina, if you have further comments, it'd be great. Or do you want to talk about how you conduct an audit when you go about an institution?
Well, one more thought about the focus groups is I think this probably happens to all 3 of us, but I really get into it. You know, I just really get into these focus groups. And so what's helpful for me is if I have somebody with me to take notes. And I tell people, we're just going to take notes to jog our mind so they don't feel uncomfortable with us writing things down. But I really, if I go in there with every intention of taking care of my own business, it never works because I get too involved in the topic. And so I always try to have a student come along with me, or I'll have notes right in front of myself. Be sure to ask this, be sure to ask that, and then I'll forget they're there because I'm so involved in the moment. But yes, and so so enough said about focus groups, and that's really the focus groups that we do to help develop those events, you know, because there's different kinds of focus groups that we do.